May 15th, 2025. It's Talking Giants brought to you by SeatGeek, and the 2025 schedule is out and announced for our Giants. And I have Shaun Morash here. Shaun, you requested, hey, as we're putting everything together, putting the schedule together of how these next couple months are going to go, you told me schedule release is when I gotta come on, and here you are, my friend. How you doing? Thanks for joining me.
I'm doing great. May the 15th be with you and also with
Yes.
you. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, look, Justin, everybody that we know in the Giants content creation world does a great job with the draft, right? As they should, right? Knee deep, doing all of that. I don't know what it is. This is something I've always cared about over the last 10 years. I love the draft. Nobody's a schedule guy. I like being a schedule guy. I love it. I love the ins and outs of road trips. I love the intricacies of when you find a team. I find all the primetime stuff fascinating. It's a weird, geeky thing. Schedule release day is one of my favorite days annually. And I care so much that, Justin, I'm even doing Talking Giants with you and recording this before I've recorded my own podcast.
Oh, wow.
One giant step to do that. Yeah, me and Bryce will handle that in the morning. But don't worry. How you doing, Justin?
I'm doing good, and I'm with you where I've always loved schedule release day. And I feel bad for, the people that don't have the opportunity or don't get the chance to go out to Giants games, or honestly, it's not even I say chance, like almost like it's a bad thing now. It's not even such a good thing. But, if people don't get the opportunity to go out to MetLife as often as you do, or even myself as a regular season ticket holder, this is a day that I get jazzed up for, because this is a day where I start to map out, all right, how many warm weather games am I going to go to? How many cold weather games are we going to have to brace up for? And all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and look, you're a season ticket holder, right? So clearly you have an agenda when the schedule comes out, all those things you listed. I'm somebody that went, I think, a good 5-6 years in a row right before I had kids with making a road trip every year. So that was something me and my buddies always went over, hoping to continue that as the kids get a little older here. Or even little things, Justin, how about the people that don't go to games? I know there's plenty of families, friends, like whoever your little inner circle is, maybe you watch football with, maybe you have some split Jets Giants stuff. You wait for schedule release day to go, geez, how many times are we going to have to split the household up here and not watch together? Like, there's a million different things people sink their teeth into. I absolutely love it. And look, we got another doozy in front of us here today.
We do. Shaun, before we get going with the schedule, and I'm going to read off the schedule in case, hey, if you didn't see it on socials or anywhere, I'll go through it game by game and fast forward 30 seconds if you don't want to hear that. But before we get to that, I got to talk to you about SeatGeek, because this episode is sponsored by SeatGeek. The MLB season is underway. The NBA and NHL playoffs, we know they're underway too. They're heating up. Our Knicks, not Shaun's Knicks, my Knicks, they're hopefully going to heat it up, finish up in the Garden with SeatGeek, the MLB's official ticket marketplace. Your tickets are fully guaranteed and instantly fulfilled in your account after purchase. And with our partners at SeatGeek, you can now get 10% off any tickets with code GIANTS2025. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the number one rated ticketing app in the entire world. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know if you're getting a good deal. You know the drill. Green means good, red means bad. Look for those green dots. And we came through for you guys. You can use code GIANTS2025 for 10% off your next set of tickets. At SeatGeek, that's 10% off any tickets with promo code GIANTS2025. Hey, it's a perfect time. Go into SeatGeek now that the schedule's available, now that the schedule's out. Go and buy yourself some Giants tickets. We'll see you for a tailgate, too, and you get 10% off. So, how do you like that? Thank you to SeatGeek. Shaun, let's go through the schedule.
Let's do it.
We're starting off at Washington, week 1.
Okay. Many years we would have prayed for that open.
Then we're going to Dallas, home against Kansas City. That's a Sunday night game. Home against the Chargers, at New Orleans, home versus Philly, Thursday Night Football. Then 2 road games at Denver, then at Philadelphia. Home against the 49ers, at Chicago, home against Green Bay. 2 away games back-to-back versus the Lions, then the Patriots, Monday Night Football, that Patriots game is. Then there's a bye. Then there's Washington, the home game, Minnesota home game, Vegas away game, and we're going to wrap up the season on January 4th, Sunday, time TBD, against the Dallas Cowboys. Shaun, give it to me.
All right, so here's right off the bat. 2 road division games to start. Many people are going to complain and scream and yell about that. I actually like it. Get the road division games out of the way and get them in a spot where, for better or worse, we know that these games are pseudo preseason games still for some of these teams. So before they're well-oiled machines at home, if they're going to be hard games anyway, I actually don't mind that they're hard games out of the gate, because those teams technically end up being a little more vulnerable. That's just like my early reaction to the first 2 games. Can't stand the week 3 game. I know the Chiefs are coming to MetLife. I don't like it for season ticket holders, number one, that you wait 2 weeks, September weeks, to get good weather at home, and then your home opener is going to be invaded with Swifties and played in prime time, which Justin, the carrot and celery crowd, giant crowd at 1 o'clock likes that game home opener there. To play that game Sunday night when the Chiefs have a million primetime games drives me nuts. Chargers, okay, so be it. Thank God for a Saints game in week 5 to technically stop the bleeding. But then here you go. 2 of your first 3 games are primetime versus the 2 teams in the Super Bowl, a Thursday night game at home versus the Eagles. Who needs that? And look, out to Denver. We'll figure that game out. Eagles 2 of 3 weeks. I guess, just because you're not playing them in December means that you can't do it there. And then, like you said, look, then you get weird. You don't know where the schedule is. You don't know what you're going to be. You don't know when Jackson Dart time is coming by the time you turn in November. But there's a couple soft landing spots there. I don't think Chicago is going to be as great as everybody else thinks. I'm very questionable about Minnesota. I know that might be Dart time. Like, what is J.J. McCarthy? Sneaky one I'll give you, Justin.
Yeah.
The Week 12 game is the Lions' home game before Thanksgiving. That is, to me, and I have to look back, what they probably won the game last year, but traditionally one where I like as a gambler lining up. The Lions sometimes get caught sleeping in that spot as they look ahead to Thanksgiving. I do like, if we're going to play at Detroit, that's where that is. But overall, look, I'm not breaking any news here. We knew the schedule was going to be tough. It was the one thing everybody was complaining about when the opponents, how many times, even when the first over-under number came out, 5.5, the schedule's going to be tough, the schedule's going to be tough. The schedule drops and everybody goes, wow, can you believe how tough it is? Yes, I can. Because A, the Giants stunk for the last couple of years, so no matter what, you're always going to feel like they're going to be an underdog. And B, we knew the opponents. So my reaction is, look, if you have to pinpoint where to put games, I think it could have been worse. And I don't mind the 1-2 start with your road division games out of the way, because I do think there's an opportunity to steal one of those 2 games.
I want to start off with those front 3.
Okay.
Washington, Dallas, Kansas City. I like you said, I like having the 2. This is a hard schedule. I mean, that's just bottom line. Hey, if you had to pick any game to have week 1 and week 2, I don't know if there's like great choices there. I like 2 divisional opponents because they're familiar, and now that this coaching staff, Brian Daboll's coaching staff, the Shane Bowen is second year as a defensive coordinator. There's a good amount of returning players. There's a lot of new players, too. This is a rookie class that's expected to kind of be contributors from day one. There's some new offensive players, mostly a lot at the quarterback position, right? But I like having the coaching, in terms of the preparation, that should be mostly kind of done.
I agree.
And the coaching staff should feel good about the preparation leading into weeks 1 and 2.
Yeah, and you're not going to get caught off guard in a week 1 spot like you did last year versus Minnesota, where I don't think anybody saw it coming.
Nobody
how
expected
good
them to be a juggernaut. Yeah,
right. Offensively, Sam Darnold, it was like they had no idea what to prepare for. And look, they got rolled by the Cowboys a couple of years ago in the opener, but we all know, the Giants weren't as talented as they should be this year, and that's another thought we'll get to in a second. But I'm completely with you. And look, I'll do you one better. When you think about these teams here and what's gone on, the Commanders going to be starting a rookie tackle. Okay. Dallas, young offensive line, rookie offensive lineman starting there too. What is the identity? We keep pounding the table since the draft. The Giants finally have an identity. The identity is going to be the pass rush. And the depth of the pass rush, this is where right off the bat it's important, right? If you're winded those early games and you're sucking wind, the Giants should be able to come at you in waves with 3 edge rushers plus Dex plus Chauncey Golston. That is the ultimate neutralizer. And if you're going up against young offensive linemen and tackles like you will be those first 2 weeks, that right there presents the opportunity for, football games to be changed. And I just want everybody to take a deep breath too when talking about this schedule. Early in the year last year, and again, I think we're all operating under the assumption the Giants are more talented this year, right, Justin? We've added enough on defense. We all agree there, right?
Yeah.
Early in the year, before the Andrew Thomas injury versus Cincinnati in that Sunday night, these were 1-score games the Giants were playing and losing. I know Minnesota was a little out of hand, but even that week 2 game versus Washington with no kicker, if you're operating under the assumption the Giants should be playing tight because these other teams are going to be playing tight, then pass rush can make a difference. So that's why I'm not staring at those young offensive linemen, or I am staring at those young offensive linemen in the first 2 weeks, staring at my strength and my pass rush, and staring at everything you talked about, familiar opponents. And I don't think it should just be a wild assumption the Giants are starting 0-2.
Right. the thing that sticks out the most pre-Andrew Thomas injury on offense last year, number one, you had a quarterback that just was not willing to throw the ball down the field and operate the way that Brian Daboll wants to in an ideal world. Like Daniel Jones, I think something broke in him in 2023. Mentally. The neck injury, whatever. ACL. I think it was the neck injury. I don't think it was the ACL. I think it was the neck injury that he sustained. And even before that, he didn't look good. But neither here nor there. That's
David Carr syndrome. He took enough of a beating over the years.
Yeah, or even Eli when it got to a certain point. But what they were doing, they were moving the ball, and I always look at the discrepancy between their yards per drive and their overall points per drive. Where their yards per drive, especially after that Seahawks game, and again everything up until Andrew Thomas injury, they're like top 10, top 12, top half of the league in yards per drive and time of possession per drive. I think they were even better. And I don't even think they were really that good of a running team. I think they were also really good on third down, which you ideally don't want to get into so many third downs. You want to avoid third down. But they were so bad in the red zone. And that was the main thing of what made 2022 such a success. It's Mike Kafka, play calling, red zone efficiency. We're utilizing Daniel Bellinger in the red zone. We're utilizing Isaiah Hodgins, and we're running the ball really well. We're moving the ball. Daniel Jones's legs, like all those different things. It was just a beautiful combination of stuff. And then last year, it was just so bad. Like just one of the worst red zone offenses in the league, and they just couldn't finish. And the difference between 3 and 7 points is wins and losses. So that's when I think of like the Giants offensive line and the Giants offense before Daniel Jones benching, Andrew Thomas injury, all of that. That's what I think of. They have to be able to finish, and also they just have to be way more explosive than where they were last year.
And let's be real about the quarterback position. Malik Neighbors is such a special talent that any quarterback should be able to find him with design plays. And we all saw it in training camp last year, right? How much designed effort was going to go to Malik Neighbors, and that showed in the early part of the year. And while Jones was able at times to find Slayton, it wasn't necessarily consistent enough. Who knows what the future holds for Jalen Hyatt? Every ball thrown in the dirt or behind Wan'Dale Robinson, never leading him on anything. And also the development at tight end here. The Giants are expecting big things from Theo Johnson. Obviously, we have to see it when we believe it. I'm saying that to say, adding Russell Wilson, who I don't even love, but his ability to take chances, throw the ball deep, connect on deep passes, maybe start working in more stuff to Darius Slayton, dare I say a Jalen Hyatt, getting that tight end game working, which he did a lot in Pittsburgh last year. Anytime you looked up, he was using those 3 tight ends. I just think that the Giants offense is going to have more third down ability. I think that obviously Scadaboo, I haven't even mentioned, throwing him with Tracy, who wasn't really ready for week 1 and all that workload. I think this running back duo is going to be a lot, better equipped than a Devin Singletary offense was early in the year. Again, it's been a long road for the Giant offense. I have to see it to believe it. I'm not that high on Russell Wilson, but just by sheer ability to throw the ball down the field and have those explosive plays, I think the Giants should be better equipped to score an extra 6 to 7 points in these couple games that they weren't able to do early in the year.
Yeah. And early in the year, once again, we say this every year, and every year it feels more important than the last, just how important it is to not suck ass. To not
tread water, stash some wins.
To not suck from day one. Because I think they're going to play some offenses through the first 4 weeks of the season. They're going to play some offenses that are going to move the ball. It doesn't matter how good. Like I don't think the Giants are going to be up there towards like where the Broncos were last year and where the Vikings were last year as like a total complete unit. Maybe with a better play caller, we would feel better about that. But
but how about Justin? The pass defense last year, no pass breakups, no interceptions. How long did
that's
he go
an area
with that?
where they need to. And Shane Bowen now has the personnel where he needs to trust his guys to. There's a lot of there's a ton of pressure on Shane Bowen as well heading into this year. But the overall point is that the defense is going to be better, and I think the defense, as even defenses with worse personnel, has kept us in football games with good offenses before. But what the offense has to do. And it's so paramount from, the overall win-loss record of the team, from the fans' investment from the month of September and then onward, and then you get to Brian Daboll and Joe Shane's future, and then you even get to Jackson Dart's future. How they do in that month of September through those first 4 games is, as always, going to set up what happens the rest of the season. But I feel like this season, more than any, because you have quarterbacks that are behind Russell Wilson, that are chomping at the bit, possibly of being there, even whether it's in the building of what they want, or whether it's going to be fan pressure of to see Jameis, or especially to see Jackson Dart. Everybody's jobs will get so much easier, and this is no shit Sherlock, everybody's jobs will get so much easier if they tread water, have a good start, or even somewhat over-exceed these expectations. But man, like that Washington line to open up, Shaun, is 7.5.
7.5.
That Dallas line is probably going to be around there. That Kansas City line, 5.5, 4.5, because maybe they play close games. The Chargers line around the 5.5, same-ish thing. Like, look, this is tough.
It is, and I have to just kind of calm this down, though. And it's probably going to sound like, if you're listening to this, that I'm just the ultimate pom-pom waver. I'm not, and I love my guy Paul Dottino. I'm not pulling a Paul Dottino here. I'm just trying to find the glass half full stuff right now, because if we're not positive in May, when can you be positive? I believe when you look at this schedule, find a way to win one of those first 4 games. Just stash one of those wins. No, but hear me out, Justin. Of course I want more. But if you were to win, and I'll get to the Cowboy game in a second, one of those 2 division games, if you lost to the Chiefs and Chargers, I say that to say you should be beating the Saints in week 5, with all due respect, even if the Saints are favored in that game.
Oh, they're horrible. Saints are horrible.
And I've watched enough football, and you have as well, when trying to hang in playoff races and 7th wild cards. If you escape the first 5 weeks at 2-3 heading into that Eagle Thursday night game, then I'm not telling you I expect to win. You have more or less survived October, where you start looking at things. Can I get a surprise win in Denver at that point? What are we expecting from the 49ers this year with roster turnover? Like, the schedule never eases up, but you start, if you got 2 wins early and build confidence and the defense gets rolling, you could start to make the case for beating some of these other teams that maybe aren't the high echelon like the Chiefs and the Eagles. Look, I would love more than one of those wins. If you beat the Commanders on opening day, I'm going to get greedy and say, God, you got to be 2-2 now out of the 4, for sure. And look, even the week 4 game with the Chargers, with all due respect to what a machine the Chargers are and what Harbaugh is building over there, they love to slow it up, run it down your throat. Can I see the Giants not get gashed on the run in that day? Mm-hmm. And if they do, I don't think that's a game where the Chargers are looking to drop 30, 40 points. They're going to try to win that game, 24-20. Is our offense going to be good enough by week 4 to win a game like that? I think the Chargers style might play into what the Giants have built up too. So yeah, I'm setting the bar real low, trying to get one win out of there. But what I'm saying that to say is, just avoid an 0-4, man. Mm-hmm. If you avoid an 0-4 heading into that Saints game, I'm telling you, we know that feeling when you look down. Remember what happened when the Giants beat the Seahawks last year? How everybody felt, even though it went to hell after that? You look down and you're 2-3, you go, oh, you could rationalize yourself a little bit. Yeah. You could dream a little bit. 2-3 is a big difference from 1-4 or 0-5. And just getting to that Saint game with already a win in your pocket and assuming you beat the Saints, I'm telling you, will make a big, big difference, I think, mentally for that locker room.
Yeah, for sure. The last thing I want to mention about the early part of the season, at least, I did a reaction video today, and you always want to preview week 1 a little bit on the day that the schedule comes out, since those are the days that we're counting down. Do you know what player I am most excited to see against the Washington Commanders?
Graham Gano.
No, I hate special teams. How dare you bring that up?
I was just saying, so we didn't have him for the first Commander game last year.
No, yeah. Also, I'm done. I'm done with Graham Gano. But anyway,
Justin, real quick timeout. I am as well, and I'm appalled that we didn't use a 7th round pick. Instead, used one on another corner and a tight end on a kicker, just to secure that we had a young kicker in here. But I digress.
What player am I most excited to see week 1 against the Commanders?
Russell Wilson?
No, it's not it's.
Am I missing an obvious one?
You're missing an obvious one.
An obvious one versus the Commanders week 1.
Yeah, we knew we kind of just added him in a way.
We just added him in a way. God, I hate this. This probably sounds terrible. I don't know who the hell you. It's
Abdul Carter.
Oh, okay. See, that was so obvious.
I know. Well, that's why I kind of gave you a snowball. I kind of gave you a snowball, a layup one. So here's why.
I was ready to go Paulson Adebo and Terry McLaurin for a second.
No. I mean, yeah, excited for that. Terry McLaurin kills us. I'm not excited to see Terry McLaurin.
No, well, it's find a corner. Let's go.
Abdul Carter. we talk about still comparing things to past years in 2023. So excited. We were thinking as leading up to that Cowboys game, it's going to be Andrew Thomas versus Micah Parsons. Good on good, elite on elite. Who's going to win? And then what do the Cowboys do? Nope, Micah Parsons, you're not going to see Andrew Thomas barely at all. Who are you going to go up against? Bad Mark Lewinsky.
Yeah.
And what did Micah Parsons do? Wreck the game from the A gap, the B gap, and being an off-ball linebacker and lining them up there. So I am excited for Abdul Carter lining up as like this off-ball linebacker. I think there's going to be a couple games on the schedule. The Commanders being, I think, the number one priority with Jaden Daniels, because I think Jaden Daniels is, he may be the most talented runner in the NFL, but he's definitely the most talented runner that the Giants are facing on their schedule this year.
Probably the best quarterback in the NFC already.
Yeah, based on last year, he certainly was. Jalen Hurts played well in the Super Bowl, but he still has his issues. But Abdul Carter lining up as an off-ball linebacker in that A-gap, QB spying, it's easier said than done. You got to be able to finish those plays, which are really, really tough to do against these quarterbacks that are so slippery, so athletic, and they can make all the throws and they can do all the things, right? But that's how you get, if we're wondering, how are we going to get everybody on the field at the same time? It's Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau as your edges. It's Dexter Lawrence with his hand in the dirt. And then it's either Abdul Carter lined up in the A-gap as that fourth defensive lineman, or even bring Abdul Carter back. You take Micah McFadden off the field, and then this is where Chauncey Golston could come in on passing downs. This is where Darius Alexander can enter. I feel like the possibilities are endless, where I'm not going to say you want to do that to Abdul Carter every game, but I think game plan specific against the Commanders and Jaden Daniels, Abdul Carter, 40-50% of the snaps, especially on passing downs. QB spy should be what we're doing to Jaden Daniels, and we should be rushing the passer from there. Have Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau go after those tackles and see if we can create a mismatch from the inside. That's my approach. Today's episode is sponsored by Mando. Spring is in the air, the weather's warming up. I'm most looking forward to going out on some vacations, going out with some friends, eating some dinners outside, enjoying spring and summer, and I'm looking forward to all of it even more because I've started using Mando whole body deodorant, because unlike some other deos I've tried, it can actually handle anything. And I have Mando starter packed. It's perfect for new customers just like you. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. And I love that free shipping. And as a special offer to you, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code TalkinGiants at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando.
I love what you're selling there, Justin, and I would love if they went there. Here's my issue. Are they throwing that much at Abdul Carter in week 1 of his NFL career?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the Giants' life stuff, but, they're already telling him.
I know. He wants to play a ton of stuff and all that. But that you also got to realize that Giants' life stuff, this year's a big year, no doubt about it. They're planning the man's career. You're talking about the very first week in the NFL. Now, I'm sure he's
done it in college too, Shaun. He had a year where he played it, and then a year where he had that role of playing the A-gap.
And he's the one that asked to come down and play the edge this year to build that stock. I hope you're right. I'm going to reserve a little bit of, I'm sure he's going to play a ton of snaps, how much they're willing to throw at the brain of Abdul Carter in his very first game in the NFL, where, would it shock you if you're just seeing a night and day difference in how far he's come by the second time they play the Commanders in December and the different kind of chess match stuff they do? No. I just think it's just going to open up more and more and more as these weeks go on. Where, again, remember, Myles Garrett didn't have double-digit sacks in his first year with the Browns. Sometimes it takes a little bit for these pass rushers before they're absolutely just destroying and wreaking havoc.
And I think it will take time for Abdul Carter, because especially this is going to be his second full year of playing as an edge rusher. I think this is year 22 for him, 21. I'll have to check back my draft notes, but I think it will take time, because you saw that first game against, he plays West Virginia week 1, and he's getting mugged and he's getting held, and it was his worst graded game according to PFF. But I'm watching him like, this guy's moving well. This guy's doing so. He's getting mugged the whole game, and then you watch him against Notre Dame in the playoff game, And it's like, well, he has one arm and one shoulder since he tore up his shoulder, and he's dominating that game and taking control of that game. So that was the progression and the growth that you saw kind of in 1 year. Like you said, what we're going to see from him week 1 against the Commanders, which I hope the role and I hope the message is, Shaun, because like you said, you don't want to put too much on his plate. I hope the role is go in there and attack.
Yeah,
like I think that's it.
Play free.
I think that's it. Go
and that's
in
also
there
the
and
benefit.
Attack.
That also is the benefit to having Kayvon Burns and Dex up there, is that those guys now are entrenched veterans. They know what to do. I guess it can take some of it off. I wonder how much of the different mismatched chess piece stuff they're going to do right off the bat. Yeah. That's for me. But I hope I'm wrong. He was picked 3rd overall and is supposed to be freaking Lawrence Taylor 2.0. Let's go throw everything at him. Let's have a good time.
What next? What next? Because here's my. Can I tell you my fear?
Yeah, sure. Give it to me.
I mean, my fear is, you mentioned how the Sunday Night Football against Kansas City, that matchup sucks. My worst fear is that we're walking out of, it's almost the bright early morning of September 22nd as we're walking out of MetLife Stadium after watching a game on the 21st. And the Giants are 0-3, and we already know the season's over. That's my worst fear.
Okay. Let me, I guess, take this a couple ways. I think that is something that a lot of people will expect, probably should expect. And if it happens, that will absolutely suck. But here's the difference between last year, the year before, and what's going to transpire this year. At 0-3, the Giants season is, in fact, not going to be over for a couple reasons. Number one, okay, if you beat the Chargers the next week, why can't you? And then you beat the Saints and you're 2-3, you're still going to be feeling like, wow, I was stupid for saying that it was over at 0-3. The other part of this is the benefit of never knowing when the Jackson Dart start is coming automatically makes this season never over. The past couple years in September and October, it depends what your definition of not over is. It was over to the extent of you just, as a fan base, started inwardly fighting with each other, begging for when's the right time to just outwardly root for losses. We should never have that moment this year. Never. No. Never. Because no matter what, the carrot at the end of the rainbow is Jackson Dart will play if and when this regime feels like A, he's ready, and B, the season's gotten out of control to the point where they want him to get the reps and want him to play. So
because they need to save their jobs.
They need to save their. Yeah. And again, I do question from talking to people how hot. I think people who watch the Giants, observe the Giants, think their seats are a lot hotter than they actually are. I will just say that.
Pivot right now.
Okay. What's
Shaun? You don't think? And I respect. Hey, you talk to people. I don't know if you know, Giants and WFAN are close. Spoiler alert. But here's my thing that I keep going back to. How hot were their seats last year? Right? If we're in December, and I hate that we're talking so negative, Nancy.
How hot were their seats? I don't think Joe Schoen's seat was ever hot.
Brian Daboll's was.
Oh, 100%. I think the way, for the record, I think we have proof it was.
Yeah.
Because they went out and won that Colts game, and for all the talk about teams don't tank, coaches don't tank, organizations don't tank. And I know what John Mara said. If he ever found out a team was open or any of these guys were openly, they'd be fired immediately, right? Then explain to me how every time the Giants finally got within a score of the Eagles in that final week, Malik Neighbors came off the field for drives.
Also they came out with the entirely different lineup. They finally put Josh Azudu at guard.
Yeah,
and he looked okay.
they tried. Look, they wanted to lose that Eagle game, and they wanted to hope they had an outside shot for the first pick. To me, there's no doubt. So I do believe Brian Daboll got the go-ahead that they were not going to be fired ahead of Week 18 and did not know that ahead of Week 17. I don't believe Joe Schoen was ever hot. I also think that while we've all over-examined that video of, hey, you guys have conviction in him and not the we, I believe that Joe Schoen is establishing boundaries no matter what to kind of protect himself. I think if the season was an outright embarrassment, they were 2-15, 1-6, like really, really bottom of the barrel, and Jackson Dart showed no signs. Of course, I'm not a fool. I think that John Mara wouldn't stand for that.
Yeah, that's my thing.
They would be fired. I think as the season goes on, this is where I think that the regime's going to benefit. If they started 0-4 or something like that and like beat the Saints and it looked really bad and Pat Leonard's asking questions about what do you guys think about the hot seats, I think that they will have an opportunity in classic Giant fashion, whether it's with Jackson Dart or without, to win some of these games down the stretch. And again, we don't know what any of these teams are going to look like. The Raiders, the Vikings. The last week are the Cowboys. Who knows what the Cowboys A look like and B
Right,
if they're
yeah.
playing anybody. The freaking Patriots on that Monday night game. I'm not a big Bears believer. Like there is room for the Giants in that second half of the schedule to win 4 or 5 games. Maybe it's with Jackson Dart playing. And nothing that happened in the first 4 weeks means these guys are getting fired. I actually think, in many ways, this regime might benefit, Justin, with this schedule being like the first 3 games were Saints, Patriots, Raiders, and the Giants started 3-0. Then all the heaviness of the schedule came, and it fell apart. They got exposed. They ended up going to Jackson Dart because it spirals out. He has no shot at winning any of these games down the stretch, and it's so backloaded. I think that's more of a runway for, wow, this thing got worse after some stuff hot, and that cost them. I actually think the way the schedule lines up with the very, very hard stuff early, and at least the argument for winnable games later, sets up to make their seats less hot because they should have more of a runway to, show improvement and build excitement for the year after.
Yeah, and I'm glad you did say, like, all right, if it's as bad as what it was last year.
Of course.
All right, all right, again.
But I just don't think an 0-4 start means it will be as bad as last year, is all I'm telling you.
Right.
I expect this team to get better as the season goes along, barring, catastrophic injuries and everything. And also, we are looking at this schedule, and the NFL and bettors are looking at this schedule, and they understand how good some of these franchises were and how bad the Giants have been. The Giants in 2025, whether it's adding a Debo and Holland, whether it's adding Abdul Carter, Chauncey Golston, obviously what they've done offensively, just the sheer improvement they should have at the quarterback position, Andrew Thomas hopefully being healthy, Cam Scatterboot, you have to block out. The Giants are different in 2025. How much different will be left to be determined. But there is no doubt that they are going to enter that first week in September, this schedule that's a gauntlet, with a more talented roster than they did the last 2 years. So that's another reason why I'm looking at it, and I acknowledge that they could be 0-4. But I don't see, despite how hard the schedule is, this team bottoming it out and being a 2-3 win team. And if they are, sure, I think they'll be fired. But I don't think even at 0-4 that is going to be the case with this roster. I really, in my heart, don't believe that.
But I really think it's September and October. That's where that's where you prove it. That's where that's where you have to start to establish it, because then it gets into the whole fan conversation of, is it worth winning, is it that? And I get why tanking this year, and hopefully that won't be a conversation no matter what, because of the presence of Jackson
Can the defense
Dart.
play in these preseason games too, by the way?
This is part of it, Shaun, where this is why I want to talk about September and October, especially with Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll, every single year so far of his coaching career, the offense has mightily struggled in the month of September. Every year, I feel like we watch an offense in training camp. Oh, and 2023 was the biggest example of this.
Mm-hmm.
Every year, I feel like we watch an offense in training camp, and then we get to the games, and it's like, what offense is this?
I
agree. I'm not even talking about from an effectiveness and an efficiency standpoint. I'm talking about from like average depth of target and throwing the ball deep and what we're doing and how we operate as an offense.
But how much of that was quarterback driven and not trusting?
And that is the question. And now it's, we finally got the answer, right? They got a certain guy in there, and Russell Wilson, that they've liked for a little while.
Isn't that interesting, Justin, though? Because how many of us, we all hit a point in time where we were done with Daniel Jones. Some of us, like me, held on longer than others, and I'll throw my hand up about that. But for all of you out there that are listening, and you know who you are, that bitched and moaned about Daniel Jones and how much he held back an offense, why are you sitting here today on schedule release day assuming this is going to look like the same offense? Am I wrong?
No, it shouldn't. It should
we
not.
We can't let our minds travel there. That's why, because we haven't seen it yet.
Right.
So it's like this mental block. Think about how much it killed Daniel Jones for holding back the New York Football Giants. He is not here. Tommy DeVito is not starting. Drew Lock is not starting. I'm not even a big Russell Wilson guy, but I think we could all admit Russell Wilson, even on his worst day, is better than what the Giants trotted out there, just from explosive plays, depth of target, all of those stats you're talking about should all improve Obviously, the caveat being Andrew Thomas, can you stay freaking healthy so the offensive line can allow you to operate? But if you do that, I just, again, our brains have not seen this yet, so we can't allow it to go there. I'm urging you to go there.
Yeah.
They should be better equipped to handle games like this.
Yeah. And from day one in week one last year, I listen on WFAN to Carl Banks, Bob Papa, and, the John Schmelk and the Giants team. And week one, where they get blown out last year, I heard something that I haven't heard ever on the ride home. I heard Daniel Jones just may not have it. He may not got it. And that's usually Shaun, Shaun, when in-house people are starting to say it, I feel like it's usually sometimes directives on talking points, right?
Yeah,
hey,
for sure.
Good things happen. Hey, well, then you could say whatever. But if bad things happen, this is maybe where you should be steered. And, we know that. And that's not anything against, anybody that does that, the post-game show. But I think it's true. It's 100% true. And I was something that I noted from day one. So that is what, and I knew from there, okay, the Giants organization is painting this year as we are bad because Daniel Jones is bad. Now he is gone. The bad man is gone.
Yep.
Let's see it. Let's see it.
And you got two doors you're going to open. You're going to start with Russell Wilson, presumably. And when you're done with Russell Wilson, you throw him out like, a bag of leaves in the fall. Then you're going to turn to your rookie savior in Jackson Dart. So you have two opportunities to show, I guess, ownership that the offense can and will and should look different. Oh, by the way, all while making sure Malik Neighbors is a focal point because you didn't take a quarterback and took him instead, and that should help you change games. And, oh, by the way, a defense now that should come at you in waves and maybe help control things and maybe get you an extra turnover or two that creates extra possessions or two. So I'm excited about the direction of the roster, and I think the direction of the roster is going to lead us to a surprise or two in the season. I'm not telling you that leads to the playoffs by any means because the schedule is hard. I just think the gloom and doom when you see the schedule today, what you are excited about this offseason, you're not allowing to carry over to when you're looking at the schedule. Right. That's all.
All right, we have a new sponsor, and oh boy, I just unboxed these boots that Brunt Workwear just sent me, and I think I found my Giants game day, especially when the weather gets colder. I think I just found my Giants game day, my new game day boots that I'm going to wear. Today's episode of Talking Giants is brought to you by Brunt Workwear. Choosing work boots used to mean sacrificing comfort or durability. If they felt good, they didn't last, and if they lasted, they wrecked your feet. That's what they used to do. But Brunt Workwear finally ended that trade-off, designing boots that withstand the toughest job sites while feeling comfortable, just as your favorite sneakers. I'll tell you what, even when the weather starts to get like in the 50s or the 60s, I may slap this on. If they're that comfortable, why not? They're also nice and leathery too. Look at the bottom, nice and smooth. For a limited time, our listeners can get $10 off at Brunt by using code GIANTS at checkout. Just head to bruntworkwear.com and use code GIANTS, and you're all set. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show. Tell them that we sent you. Tell them that Talking Giants sent you. And enjoy your new game day boot, especially when the weather gets cold. All right, before we get talking about like different quarterbacks and quarterback changes and things like that, because I want to talk about the bye week and how the bye week is an interesting part, is an intriguing part of this schedule, and then with the final 4 games and the opportunity that it could give the Giants to bring in a guy like Jackson Dart. But some thoughts that I have kind of before then. Number one, Shaun, Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. The Giants do not play on any of those 3 holidays. We get to enjoy.
It's amazing. I'm so happy for that, too, because I have no problem watching the games on those holidays, but there's watching other teams play and there's being locked in like every down, like your life's on the line. I don't like doing that on holidays to begin with, but I would just caution every Giant fan listening to Talking Giants right now, Justin. If you think Jackson Dart has a chance to be a really good franchise quarterback, enjoy this holiday off. Enjoy this holiday season off, because they will not wait or hesitate. As we saw 2 of the last 3 years on Thanksgiving and one of the Christmas games. Now the Christmas is becoming a part of it. They are dying to have a New York team be relevant year in and year out that they could thrust onto the holiday schedule to make that extra money for Netflix and everybody else who's involved. Tubi, you name the streaming service, it's going to have games on holidays from here on out. Cherish this year with your family because I'm happy it's not here. But man, if the Giants got good or the arrow was up, they will be right back in that
Yeah.
mix. Oh, by the way, how about if you're a freaking Cowboys, Lions, or Chiefs fan? Thanksgiving and Christmas Day this year.
Yeah.
That's a tough matzo ball out
Didn't
there.
you tweet out that the Cowboys only have 11 games on Sunday this year?
Correct. Actually, I thought when I went through every team's schedule, I think that's the most fascinating part of the NFL. Not to dip away from the Giants, but like I said, I'm a schedule guy. 2025 NFL schedule. The Cowboys are playing think about 17 games, 4 separate Thursdays. The opening Thursday night, Thanksgiving, as they traditionally always do. That week after Thanksgiving, where they take 2 of the 6 teams that play on Thanksgiving and give them a full week off into that Thursday. And Christmas Day is a Thursday. Throw in the fact that the Cowboys are playing 2, not just 1, 2 Monday night games. That takes 4 Thursdays and 2 Mondays. 6 of more than a third of their schedule will not be played on a Sunday, the most cherished of football days. That is crazy to me.
And also, I wonder how that works with rest days and travel days and things
It's
like
all
that.
messed up.
Because that's what I kind of took note of for the Giants. Now, Warren Sharp usually breaks this stuff down, and he's gonna. I think he's gonna have way more on this than I do. But I like how going from New Orleans from week 5. Then you're going to have Philly at home on a short week. And I like having a divisional opponent on a short week, again, because it's familiarity. We know the system. We know the team. In terms of preparation, that's why I like it. And then I like having the mini bye that you have between Philly Thursday night, and then you fly to Denver, and then you just come home from Denver just to drive down the Parkway to play Philly again. So it's not like the Giants, if they had 2 away games, and let's just say it was at Denver then at Dallas, that would be a lot of flying within 2 weeks, a lot of travel. Does that shit matter? I don't know. It's the schedule release time. This is when it's talked about. And then really the only other time that they really travel, like their biggest travel game, is the Raiders. But great news, that's Saturday, December 27th. It's a game that could typically be a cold game. Hey, you're playing at Chicago November 9th. Could it be cold? Yeah. Will it be December 27th cold? No. So you're playing at Vegas, indoors, and the Vegas game where you're flying a shit ton is surrounded by home games. So
that's one of the 5 games designated in Week 17 that they're going to pick 3 of them that get shifted to Saturday, December 27th. So it could be Sunday, December 28th if neither of those teams are relevant. I think that, what was it? The Giants, one of their games last year it was the Colt game, I think, that could have been flexed, stayed on Sunday.
Right.
But that's what it is. Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's who cares? You hope it matters, but that's kind of like a who cares where that road trip happens late in the year. You're not playing Christmas Day. It's not disrupting their family time, all of that crap that, if that matters mentally, it does. I also love, did I mention this earlier? I love the Lions game being where it is from them with the look ahead thing. Again, the Lions are going to be tough on the road no matter what in that spot. They're getting ready for what is annually their Super Bowl on Thanksgiving. That could be, catch them napping if they don't take the big bad Giants seriously. I don't mind that. And look, for whatever happens there in early December, I don't know what to expect from the Patriots. I think they're going to be much improved and all of that. I kind of like that that's a primetime game too, because that could give an opportunity for the Giants, for this coaching staff, if that is when they turn to dart, or maybe they've kind of surprised for a couple weeks where they can kind of make their claim and not be an embarrassment for once on primetime where people start to rally to the Giant cause late in the year. I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, I think that Patriots team is not suspect because I don't think they're very good. I think that offensive line is still
they'll be better coached.
Bad. They are going to be much better coached. It's a matter of offense too. You could say whatever you could say whatever you want about Vrabel and his defense, which he's gonna run a good defense over there. He's gonna run a disciplined defense, but I just still don't fully know about that offense, and especially the talent that they have.
And look, the Giants have had their bad moments on Thursday Night Football, so I'm not again trying to act like this is the ultimate win here. But in the NFL, injuries happen, concussion protocol happens. that Eagles game on Thursday night, that's a tough turnaround if the week before the Eagles are getting a little nicked up, where maybe
Yeah.
you catch a break with a guy or two that's not there, and suddenly that makes a difference in that game.
So we talked about the New England game. Sunday, December 7th. Shaun, at that point, there will be 5 weeks left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks left.
Oh, okay.
Of the 2025 season. There'll be 4 games left, but there'll be 5 weeks.
That'll be the bye. Yeah.
And I say 5 weeks because the Giants will have time to make decisions and reevaluate and evaluate how the season's gone. It's a late bye.
Yeah.
But I kind of like it for the sake of this year, because I hope, I've been talking a lot about worst case scenarios, and I love that you've been talking about best case scenarios on this show. My worst case scenario for the Giants, my ideal worst case scenario. How do you like that? I'm reworking.
All right.
I'm reworking my worst case scenarios. My ideal worst case scenario for the New York Giants this year is Jackson Dart comes in the final 4 games of the year. We do enough for Russell Wilson / Jameis Winston to get us through the first 13 weeks of the season. And then if they need to, they make a decision. If Brian Daboll needs to, that's where Daboll would need to prove something in the scenario that the season's lost or they're mathematically eliminated. I don't know if they would do it if they were almost mathematically eliminated, because they've kind of flirted with that before. Even think back to 2023, where they were like, oh no, we're still in it. We're still going to operate like we're in it, even though they weren't. So yeah, I think that is where we could see Jackson Dart. I like that 3 of the 4 games are at home. I like that 2 of them are against divisional opponents. I actually like if Jackson Dart can maybe even go in and play the Minnesota Vikings, because the main thing that we heard about during the Gruden QB video, and the main thing that we heard about in the Giants Life video, this is very true, and I think especially for Jackson Dart, this is true, just knowing the Ole Miss system and watching him at Ole Miss, you got to be able to call out protections at the line. You got to be able to recognize blitzes pre-snap and what's going on pre-snap, and diagnose and help out everybody else around you. As a quarterback, you got to be able to do that. And the best test in the NFL, I think, at getting exposure of confusion pre-snap is Brian Flores, especially on third down, where he'll show 8 or 9, and then 3 of those guys will back off, and he'll still rush 6. So that is the area of the schedule that I would welcome Jackson Dart. But ideally, Shaun, we don't see him at all, and I would be fine with that.
Yeah, or ideally we see him week 18 versus the Cowboys, because the Giants have clinched a playoff spot.
You know what? I love it.
That would be great. Look, if we're going to operate under worst case scenario, the team is not truly a playoff contender. They win enough to make you think they're in the hunt for a little bit. I think that 4 games following the bye week feels like, wow, I think that's popped out on every Giant fan's mind when you saw that. That feels like a good landing spot where you would turn, because, of course, coming off the bye week. I'll kind of do you one better, Justin. If I think that Jackson Dart is going to be ready to play football versus the Washington Commanders on December 14th, why wouldn't I think with an extra day off, 8 days, Jackson Dart's ready to play football December 1st versus the Patriots, off of maybe a loss to the Lions? You play him on Monday night, get his first start in prime time, throw him through. Hey, listen, kid, you love the big game. Let's go. Go play versus the Patriots, and then use the bye week as kind of that relax. We got you 1 game in. Now take a deep breath. Let's get ready for the first 4 games. So rather than use the bye week to reset the whole fundamentals of where this direction his team's going for 4 weeks, use the bye week to let him take a deep breath after his first taste of action. I actually think that could, and also the opponent matters too, right? If you're thinking the Patriots, and we'll know by then, are not going to be a great team, maybe It's get his confidence going and allow him to take a deep breath in the bye week.
I think a lot of people thought similar-ish logic, but it's so different. It's so different than what it was last year. But I think people had similar-ish logic to the Panthers game, where, this is such a bad team, and you're going to have a bye anyway the next week, so why not just start Drew Lock that game? I think that was Daniel Jones's last start. It
was. It's a little different. That was a trip to Germany, to be fair.
Yeah, trip to Germany too. So I don't know. Like, thinking of how they approached that last year, and there was such pressure to make the move then.
But remember, Justin, there's also a big difference. whether, and this is going to drive fans nuts, and I understand that, there was this feeling within the organization of showing Daniel Jones respect, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had been there. He had done everything. He was the first guy in the building all the time.
Russell Wilson may be a future Hall of Famer.
He was, but Russell Wilson wasn't drafted here. He wasn't groomed here. He is brought here a la that Kurt Warner. They drafted a quarterback in the first round, albeit not the first overall pick. But he is brought here to play football for a year and get the organization back to not laughable stock, hopefully, and then pass the baton. If the Giants feel like Jackson Dart is ready earlier than those 4 weeks, and again, that's going to be a lot on Jackson Dart and the coaching staff, I think will be honest, and they're not going to want to tank his season just to play a rookie. I don't think there's that level of hesitancy where I do think in a game in Germany, they were trying not to embarrass organizationally Daniel Jones. And while I agree that's madness to even have that thought, I do think that there was a certain there. The Giants still operate from ownership down with this element of trying to be respectful and classy and to the point where it may, actually agitate a fan base, but that is the way the team runs. And Russell Wilson is not Daniel Jones in terms of technically what he meant to ownership and this organization.
We shall see. We shall see. The Jackson Dart window is the final 4 weeks of the season. Hopefully we don't see him any sooner. Hopefully we don't see him at all. I would like the Giants season to go well enough where that does not happen. All right, let's take a little break because we got to talk about True Classic. Today's episode is sponsored by True Classic. They have one mission to make sure guys look good and feel even better. They've nailed fit, feel, and price across your entire wardrobe. It's not just tees, but hoodies, jeans, activewear, everything you need to level up your everyday style. True Classic sent me some shirts. They sent me some jeans. They've sent me activewear stuff, and I think it fits great. It feels great. And I'm able to look pretty damn good too, and I said it twice because it's that nice. True Classic isn't just about great clothes. Their brand DNA is built on being highly intentional in everything they do. Forget overpriced designer nonsense. Skip the cheap throwaways. True Classic delivers premium essentials built for real life. Grab yours at Target or Costco. I say Target. Target or Costco, or head to trueclassic.com/talkingiants to get hooked up today. Get hooked up with True Classic. Back to the show. Shaun, I wanna do some more housekeeping stuff.
Okay. What do you got?
Gabe Davis visited the Giants. Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, I feel like, have kind of gone out of their way in the past. There's even been times where they've talked about Gabe Davis, and I've asked myself, why are you talking about Gabe Davis right now? How much you like him? That's how much I feel like they've talked about Gabe Davis in the past. But they really like him. I think they view him as the C word, culture guy, glue guy, high work ethic, good for the locker room and things like that. So he visited to the Giants. I feel like, I'm in, right?
Here's my problem with that. So I have a little bit of a negative tinge to it.
Don't tell me you're still on Jalen Hyatt.
I'm not on Jalen Hyatt, but the whole strength of Jalen Hyatt's game, you finally have quarterback play that should play to it. You know what I mean? He should earn it. He should earn it. No doubt. No doubt. If he has a crappy camp, all of that. I think by signing Gabe Davis, you're almost guaranteeing, this isn't an Allen Robinson situation last year. I think you're almost guaranteeing he'd be on the roster. You did just spend decent enough money on Darius Slayton to keep him around as the number 2. Wandell's in the slot. Obviously, Neighbors isn't going anywhere as the 1. So now, Amir Smith-Marsette's going to be on the team because he's a specialist returning. You start playing the numbers game on the wide receiver spots. And if you bring in Gabe Davis, I think you're probably done with Jalen Hyatt. And more so, insert whoever you want. I know they signed a couple undrafted free agents. You're going to need somebody out of the wide receiver room to play a little gunning and playing some special teams too. I mean, you're not carrying.
And Hyatt ain't doing that.
Okay, but maybe you could talk a Hyatt into doing that this year.
No way. He's a
what do you mean?
Clip.
Paperclip. Hey, listen, with your speed, maybe things change with this culture. You're probably right. They wouldn't ask him to do that.
Do you like how I just make up expressions, but people kind of know what I mean?
I got what you meant.
I do that all the time?
It's a smart way to do it. The point is, though, Justin, with Hyatt and with Gabe, we know neither of them pretty much are doing it. And if you can't carry 2 of those guys, right? You can't carry 2 of those guys. So I probably sound like an idiot. People are screaming and yelling, well, why do you care so much about Hyatt? I think I care because he was still the third round pick. And as much as I've railed on the quarterback, and most of us have, a guy who could not be afraid to throw it deep should technically play into maybe finally seeing if Jalen Hyatt could do anything for this team. And Gabe Davis, who barely acted in Jacksonville, glue guy, culture guy, had his moments at Buffalo. If Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll aren't here, we even having a conversation about Gabe Davis? Are we even doing this? It's just because of their familiarity with him. I don't know. I'm questioning how much Gabe Davis is really going to add to this team, where the upside of maybe seeing what you get at a Hyatt or whatever else you could do out of the wide receiver room, because he's not going to be one of the top 3 receivers on this team anyway.
Oh no, he's going to be wide receiver 5.
Yeah, okay, but shouldn't wide receiver 5 be a little bit of either you have blazing speed like Hyatt or you're a special teams guy? Shouldn't you?
Well, here, let me look at if Gabe Davis ever played special teams.
By the way, you could expose me here, because maybe he has and I just haven't noticed. Like, was he running around gunning on the Jaguars?
I'm not gonna blame you if you don't know that.
Then I've missed the boat, and I did.
Hold on, I'm looking it up right now. I have snap counts. The most snaps that he's ever played on special teams was his first 2 years, 32 and 33 snaps on special teams in 2020 and 2021. That was a total of 7% and 8% of the special team snaps for the Buffalo Bills.
Okay, so it's not really a special team.
I wouldn't think so. And he's played a combined 5 special team snaps the last 3 years when he's become more of a starter. But I don't know. He tore his left meniscus tear in his left knee during the Lions game in Week 11 last year. Jaguars just released him because he was unable to pass a physical. He's expected to be fully healthy by the start of the 2025 season. He visited the Giants and the 49ers this week. So, I mean, if it's a minimum, I'm very much for it. He can come in and he can earn a spot. The thing with Hyatt, man, and I can't, like, I don't like the amount of time that we as Giants fans spend talking about Jalen Hyatt. I don't like it because.
But Justin, you know his strength. We all know his strength.
Oh yeah, it's catching a ball on the sideline. It's running in a straight line and catching the ball on the sideline, which Russell Wilson does that very well. Throws that ball very well.
We have a quarterback that plays to the strength of a guy who invested
Shaun.
a third round pick in. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to bury that.
A little bit of sarcasm in that.
Well, okay, but I don't want to bury that. That's my point. I don't want to bury that opportunity to even see it, because I feel like as a culture we're bringing in Gabe Davis.
I think Gabe Davis can do that. He's not going to win with speed, but if you look at Gabe Davis's 17-game average now, if you look at Gabe Davis's 17-game average and Darius Slayton's 17-game average, they are somewhat similar. Darius Slayton does have the edge on him on most categories besides touchdowns, which, touchdowns can be a fluky thing. And obviously Gabe Davis has had a much better quarterback, even in Jacksonville for the, 10 games that he played in the 420 snaps. Had a much better quarterback throwing him the ball than Daniel Jones and Darius Slayton, all the quarterbacks that has thrown the ball to Darius Slayton.
So. Are we allowed to have any negative Darius Slayton slant on Talking Giants? It's like the first time I've ever heard anything said in a negative light about Darius Slayton.
No, I didn't know that was a negative light about the quarterbacks that have thrown him the ball.
It still felt like there was a tinge of negativeness.
No, never. It's a cardinal sin to do that on this show.
Tinge.
Cardinal sin to do that on the show. All right, so yeah, I'm for Gabe Davis, wide receiver 5. Come in and earn it.
There's never been a more May topic on a Giants podcast, by the way, than the sentence, I'm all in for Gabe Davis, wide receiver 5. Come in and earn it. That's what this is all about. That's why we do what we do.
Brian Daboll's getting back to doing the shit that he did in Buffalo. Gabe Davis is part of it. Let's do it. Here's what I wanted to talk to you about, too.
Mm-hmm.
Final topic. Change the timestamp in the YouTube video. Me, as I'm editing this.
Got it.
You're a host on a show called Evan and Tiki on the afternoon drive of the WFAN, one of the most famous, I think the most famous sports radio station in the world. The afternoon drive show is kind of like a really big deal. Congratulations on that, Shaun.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
You take a lot of phone calls from fans and from Giants fans.
Yeah, I would say of all the shows, too, probably the most Giant calls, because we have Tiki freaking Barber on the show.
Tiki freaking Barber, you, Tommy Lugar.
It's very Giant. We have a very Giant fan presence, for sure.
And I love it. And as we kind of found out and discovered through this conversation that we had, where there are times where you're talking about, hey, bring in Jackson Dart because the Giants are going to clinch a playoff spot against Dallas, and I'm talking about the season being over by September 21st. We've had quite the range of feelings and emotions on just this show. So I want to get a sense from you. Where do you feel like Giants fans are at right now? Because I can see total arguments, and I feel this too, of they crushed the draft. It feels like they crushed the draft. It feels like they crushed free agency. But also, you could still look at it and say they're the fourth best team in their division with the hardest schedule in the NFL, as we talked about. When you're getting callers and when you're getting people that call up about the Giants, where do you feel like the emotions and the level of optimism is at?
Okay, so when I say the following sentence, just keep in mind that the Giants have caused us to lower the bar with the garbage we've dealt with, right?
Yes.
And there was excitement for 2023.
That's why I'm hurt. Like, I'm hurt.
Right.
And that's why I'm trying to mask myself of not being hurt.
To me, I have worked my way up behind the scenes at WFAN since I was an intern in 2010. I was fortunate enough to go do 10 years producing the DA show over at CBS Sports Radio, which is more of a national show, but I still kind of had my, toe in the water at FAN doing weekend stuff, and I produced an afternoon show back in the day, CMB, and now I get to work as an on-air host and do Giants coverage, all that. So I say that to say I've seen a long era of Giants football at WFAN in a million different capacities, hearing from a million different callers. This, to me, at least the immediacy of the draft, after what happened with free agency, because I think you have to combine the two, it's not just the draft, is the most optimistic / united I feel like the Giants fan base has become since probably the preseason of 2017, when we came off that 2016 year with McAdoo, where we know the wheels fell off, but take yourself back to July and August of 2017 and the anticipation you had of that season. I think this is the most, I think tepid excitement fans have had, and less fighting amongst the fans. You're hard pressed to find a Giants fan that, to me, feels any shade of negativity about the direction of the roster and all of the stuff that goes into that. I think a lot of that is going to now be toned down in the immediacy of seeing the schedule and all of that. But I think Giant fans are chomping at the bit and breathing a sigh of relief that almost, and maybe it's the Daniel Jones stuff, maybe, and to a lesser extent, right, Saquon and Daniel Jones tied at the hip. That era of Giants football feels buried now, and it kind of feels like everybody's just in unison. And think about it. When the Giants drafted Daniel Jones, Justin, I think this is a big part of it. Everybody went nuts, and it wasn't that they took Daniel Jones. It was that they took Daniel Jones 6th overall, and they could have had Josh Allen, who's changed his name to whatever. The idea that they got maybe the best player in the draft at 3rd overall, and then identified and traded up for a quarterback without giving up a lot, and then get like a fan favorite running back in the 4th round that everybody's going to love.
Yeah, and the rest of the draft was Darius Alexander was a guy that you were thinking about at 34. Marcus Bowe had a consensus ranking of 65. He had a consensus ranking of 65, and the Giants traded away. Pick 34.
All the rounds before they did that. And the only thing that the fan base hung their hat on last year, and again, came in unison, is this team stinks, fire Daboll, fly airplanes, do this. But I tell you, that 2024 draft class, we like all those guys. We like Drew Phillips. We like Newbin. We like Neighbors. So now you combine those two draft classes. I don't know, man. I get the sense, working sports radio, that Giant fans are begging for the team just to win games because they want to believe, and they secretly do believe, and it's almost like they're scared to tell the world they believe that the Giants have gotten better in a weird way.
I am scared, Shaun.
We all should be scared.
Because they're going to hurt us. They're going to hurt us.
Just remember, Justin, if and when the Giants hurt us in 2025, they can't hurt us worse than that garbage schedule release video they put out where they tried to mimic Love Island.
Oh, was that this one? I've never seen that one. That was
this one, and I think it was so bad and so embarrassing, Justin, that the Giants almost set us up as a fan base to say we're only going up from here. Art Stapleton liked it though. God bless him.
Oh wow. I watched the first 20 seconds of it, and then I said, I think it's going to take me a couple days to get fully through it because I'm only going to be able to watch 10 to 15 seconds at a time because I turn it off because I can't. Like, I cringe.
I cringe too. I cringed heavy.
Did you watch the whole thing?
I did 3 times.
3 times?
Well, I wanted to like it, Justin. I told you from the beginning I'm a glass half full guy. Enough.
I couldn't even get through 20 seconds.
I get the Instagram thing. I get the TikTok thing. Can you just show me a piece of paper with the schedule and say, we're on to business. We're focused on business. I don't need, because the Chargers and Titans once were funny. Everybody's got to chase that.
They may do that next year now. I think they're going to go total opposite.
They should. By the way, everybody would praise him for it. It's like handing the ball to the ref. Here's our schedule. were focused on work. How great would that be? We'd all go nuts.
The Eli Manning show should just do it.
Yeah, it's great. Do that. Bang.
Oh, here's a shirt.
No funny business. I love that. What does it say?
I
want Eli in the Hall of Fame.
I want Eli.
Isn't that a shame? Isn't that a shame? Also, Canton and the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm just going to use all my bullets here right now, Justin, on Talking Giants.
Fire them away because we're about to wrap up.
You get what you get. Because you know what you could have had this year? You could have had Giant fans excited to watch a rookie quarterback play in the Hall of Fame game.
Ooh.
You could have had Tom Coughlin. You could have had Eli Manning. And you could have even had Tiki freaking Barber. You could have made this a Giants weekend of deserving Giants entrance in the Hall of Fame. And they would have brought a rookie quarterback and fans excited as all hell to spend money at Perkins and every other mom and pop place you got all over Canton, Ohio, and raid your place this year. And guess what? Now we eat our pancakes at home. We take our bowl and go home, and we hope your economy suffers this year, Canton. Eli should be in.
Wow. Don't say that about the economy of Canton. I saw what was going on around Canton, Ohio when I went.
I've been.
And it's not popping, so don't do that to Canton.
Not. The melt shop is not bad. It's about a mile away from Canton.
Okay.
Pretty good.
I drove through it. I stopped at the Hall of Fame, left, and then go by.
I did it the day before Giants Browns 2016. I went there. So.
Was that the whole? Who was that year?
That was when the Giants were good and they won in Cleveland on Thanksgiving weekend with McAdoo.
Oh, not a Hall of Fame game vehicle.
No, it was just I went to the Hall of Fame because I was in Cleveland for the Giants. That's right.
Shaun, thank you.
Yeah, I'm scared to hang up with you here, Justin, because I kind of taunted Tommy Lugauer and Knicks fans with a weird video, and I can already tell my Twitter looks like it's going to be a mess. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Honestly, I can say, I think somehow I'm the second most hated person out of all the people that are on this call right now. The second most hated person on Twitter over the last 2 months. So
does that feel better for you? That's why you had me on, really, isn't it?
Feels a little bit better.
That's why you had me on. I got you, dude.
All right, man.
All right, bro. Listen, I love you. Good luck. Keep killing it. You're doing a great job here. This is a new venture, and I'm into it, and all Giants fans should be into it. There's room for everybody to eat in the Giant content world, and I love it, and I can't wait to be back with you guys.
Thank you, man. All right, we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Go Giants. New outro, by the way. My friend Joey, L16 Tailgate. Every time that we do a toast, and every time that I don't do a shot because I don't drink, but every time that they do a shot of Captain Morgan, they say, "Let's go Giants, we bleed blue," and then they drink. So that is the new outro of the show. So whenever you hear me say, "Take it away, Joey," you're going to hear this.
Cheers, y'all. It starts today. Let's go Giants! We bleed blue!